When you get down with the music, behind the music, you will be inspired to think higher, realize your gift. Join the music and Michelle Gina. Turn this up and through your speakers. It's the music.
And a good evening to you all. It is the Music Behind the Music, and I am your host, Michelle Fallon. Happy Memorial Day to you all. I need to take a minute to pay homage to those of us who have served and those who continue to serve in the armed forces for our country. Listen, kudos to y'all, because it wouldn't be me. It couldn't be me. And so I'm grateful, y'all. I say this with sincerity. I am grateful for you putting yourselves on the line. That is a ministry. That is dedication. That is your commitment. And so thank you for what you have done and what you continue to do for us to be able to enjoy some of the freedoms that we experience in this world. Today, I have an amazing millennial guest with us. Listen, I can't wait for you all to talk with Ashley Nicole Johnson, who I've been knowing for quite some years. And so first things first, good people, go on ahead and subscribe, like, love, share this podcast with all of the people that you know. Podcasts will be available to you all next week on all of your podcasts, your favorite podcast streaming platforms such as Apple and Spotify. And I look forward to you all listening to this. Thank you for being here, Muses. I know it's Memorial Day and I asked you all to bring your food. So hopefully you did. I made some egg rolls, Ashley. I made egg rolls for Memorial Day, some shrimp egg rolls, as well as some Southwestern egg rolls, and we partook of them, and they were good. And so I am now full and ready to get this going. So everyone, would you kindly welcome Ashley Johnson with us?
Yes, thank you so much, Michelle, for having me here. Happy Memorial Day weekend. This has been a phenomenal weekend. I was saying to Michelle, although we had some rain, I still celebrated my 28th birthday. And so I'm super thankful. God has allowed me to see another year.
I know that's right. Listen, I've been knowing you, Ashley, since you were about, 14, 15 years old. I mean,
a teenager, a young youth.
It's been a while. And so, okay, let me jump in with some things as to why I am bringing you on, someone of your magnitude. First of all, the millennials, you all are speaking on some newer measures that I certainly didn't see my generation doing. And one of the biggest things that I so appreciate about you all is that you're really now embracing the theme of entrepreneurialism.
Yes.
And that's so hot and it's so fireful. I'm making up words.
But that sounded great. And I knew what you meant.
Thank you. It's fireful. And anybody else go on ahead and you can use it too. And so that really makes me proud because especially being an African American, I can tell you the truth is that, and it's an interesting thing. There's irony in the fact that this is the 100th year of, the anniversary of what happened out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for Black Wall Street to have been burnt down. And, we went through a time after that, a very long period in time of rebuilding, as well as, we always complained about, like in the African American community, their businesses are so expensive, or there was always something with it. But now we're taking on a new leaf, a new idea, new perspectives. And I think that your generation is making such great strides to remove those perceptions that we had. of our community and business owners within the community. It's just, you're coming with thoroughness and a level of excellence that has been long overdue. These are my opinions, and I'm free to have them, but I believe that they're factual in the same token too. So I need to introduce a little bit of who you are. As I said, I've known Ashley for quite some time. She is a businesswoman, a change maker, an impact innovator. Oh, that is so good to me. She's been recognized by the Huffington Post as a highly sought after corporate relations and business strategist. That's really, woo, we're going to get into that for a minute. You know, kudos to getting some props from the Huffington Post. Working currently for AARP, and she has her own consulting agency called ANJPR. Of course, those are your initials with the public relations attached to it. Absolutely love this. This is her own, y'all. This is her own thing that she has been doing since 2011. And so now she's kind of collaborating and mixing those two strengths together with AARP, because I would like to know, and I know that we have some listeners and watchers who fit into the AARP category, and they would like to know some things about what it is that you do as well, and the benefits of that. She obtained her BA from the only real HU.
Yeah.
That would be Howard University in public relations, and then later received her master's from Georgetown University in that was what'd you get it in? Public relations and corporate communications, Georgetown. That's so hot. It's so incredibly amazing. You have accomplished a lot for being such a young person. And it just makes me completely proud. Tell me, because as I said, I met you from a long time ago. And hey, Miss Donna, I miss you. I'm sorry, I had digressed. I see Miss Donna. Hey, Miss Donna, I miss you. A long time ago in music, your mom is a gospel recording artist. You had a beautiful voice. Why not anything in the music field?
You know, I love music. And one of the things that I loved about, I fell in love with music from the gospel. And that literally was in church. Starting off as the Jewels with First Mount Zion Baptist Church, and getting to know you, crossing over to Voices of Zion, which was so exciting to me when I was young. But I loved music, and I fell in love with it really through the gospel. However, I actually fell more in love with the behind the scenes of the industry of it. And that is why I actually decided to go to school to study public relations, because I love the power of the media and amplifying artists and entrepreneurs to share their story about who they are as an artist. And so I love that component of it. And so I sought out more of the business side of the music industry. And that's why I decided to start ANJPR Consulting LLC, which was an entertainment and lifestyle PR agency that provided services for artists and musicians. And so we've gotten to work with artists in gospel, neo soul, jazz throughout the years that we have been in existence. So music is definitely it's the heart of me, but I feel like I didn't really seek after like going through that path, but I had more of an aspiration for the media and the business side of it.
Right. I had interviewed a friend of mine, Patrick D. McCoy, who is one of the DMV's premier arts journalists. And we were talking about the very fact that he was a voice major, but not with the intention of, wanting to do the performances, being a voice major, but how it gave him the access to be able to write about it, because he is so passionate about that. And it took him in a different direction. And so I love the fact you still have music incorporated in your life, but as you put it, the power of the media, and we know that the media, Jesus have mercy,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
extremely powerful. What are some of the services that a public relations specialist can provide to the artist? Because I know that there are artists who are out here and they're listening and they're thinking, do I need somebody in PR?
That's an excellent question. A publicist is a person that can, again, amplify an artist's story. So when you're pushing out a new product, there are thousands, millions of artists within your genre that's doing the same thing. But what makes you stand out and grow your fan base or grow your following or brand awareness is a strategy of PR. And that is, again, connecting your story to media outlets as it pertains to radio, online publications, a podcast, broadcast, television shows, right? Being able to get an artist on those platforms to share their music, of course, but also to share their story so that they can connect with people and people can connect to their music and share it with their community. And so that is the power of having a publicist. Not only can they help you get media appearances, but they can also help in the booking aspect as well. A lot of times when you do get a media appearance, they're going to ask you to perform a song, right? And there may be an interview at the beginning, right? And so making sure that, when you're an independent artist, you can't juggle all of those things.
Right.
Hiring a professional that has the strategy, has the insights, has the connections. A lot about what we do as publicists is based off of the relationships we have with media. And so we have access to those journalists that are covering stories in those specific genres of whether it be jazz, classical music, whether it be hip hop, R&B. There are different writers that focus on those niche-based outlets or genres.
Right.
So depending on the publicist that you work with, they have access to those things. And so it's very hard to be the creator and the writer and the producer. You need somebody that can handle and amplify your brand on a larger space, a larger community. And that's what a publicist does.
I tell you that you are hitting such great points with that, because I remember starting inside this business and I was my everything. And it would have been a heck of a lot easier had I had some team builders.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that I could just focus on the recitals. I just wanted to focus in on the performance aspect. But you're right. It's crazy when you have all of these other things that are pulling you. And so now today, that's the space that I'm in that says, okay, I've now established relationships, because that's another word that you just mentioned that I talk about all the time. I love the fact that as I'm talking to you, I can go into hindsight only from what I have seen, and have realized that you were being set up in a beautiful manner to be a part of Mom's team. And were you doing background singing at one point with Mom?
She would pull me. She would pull me in sometimes with her music ministry when I was younger, and sometimes I'll step in, when she needs me. To this day, but yeah, I had the firsthand experience of really understanding what PR was in the business, with working with my mom when I was little, and she released her first album in 2009, and so I was just a teenager in high school, but that was where I was able to really understand the power of an artist. And it takes a lot to perform and to connect with the crowd. It takes a lot of preparation, it takes a lot of discipline, and it takes a lot of consistency. So that was one of the things you asked about, why did I never embrace the music journey, was I just didn't have the confidence like a Michelle Fallon that can just come to the mic and sing notes in the heavens and captivate an audience. I didn't have the confidence to do it, but I had the confidence to make connections in the background, to make connections to the media. I had the confidence to write and to be able to capture the artist's story and to pitch it.
Yeah.
That's where I played well.
Yeah.
And so I was able to understand that just from the experience of, you know, following my mother's journey,
Yes.
in her artistry and ministry. And so I love where I play. You know, I love being able to support artists and to consult them in the PR and business space and marketing. It's something that I feel like God has given me that purpose.
Yeah, I love how you say that. I love, you know, where I play. You know, like, I mean, I always say the world is my stage. And so, you know, every time that I get on, I'm in the moment of creating, like that is in the space. And sometimes what I've practiced for me, you know, I have the joy of, you know, doing it in that moment, as I would assume that you do when you have artist presentations, the ideas that you might start with, and then as they begin to evolve, they change, they, you know, morph into something else, and you know, the spontaneity of it. But I really love that. You have something that's called storytelling. You mentioned this just a little while ago about, you know, representing artists to have them tell their story, and it comes out through the brand. What is your platform about storytelling?
Yeah, I think it's something that we often don't realize, that we all have a story, and the artist's journey is a story. You didn't just decide to wake up to be an artist. You know, there was a journey that it took. There were trials and tribulations. There were really sunny days and there were really rainy days in that process. And so when people understand that, whether it be, you know, your story about what you went through as a child, you know, whether it be about what you went through when you went to school and you decided to embrace this world of music. Like, there's so many angles to it, but the power of storytelling is connectivity.
Yeah.
We share stories, even the Bibles are stories, right?
Yeah.
We connect to them and we relate and we can commune about those stories in the Bible. Same thing as you as an artist or a brand. People will connect to you with your story. And so there's different things that I teach in my, you know, when I consult clients or when I coach them about storytelling. There's different types of frameworks that you can kind of build your story if you have trouble trying to figure it out. We think about like the Princess and the Frog story, right? Like the Cinderella story. You know, you started off didn't have anything, then at the end you have everything, right? But then you had a trial, you had to make a decision, right? So there's different frameworks that you know, I coach clients and I teach them so that we can figure out what the angle is, right? We're trying to connect people to their music. And so that's what we do as publicists. We find the story and we make the connection to the media where we know that's the community that we want to target to embrace your music brand.
So how did you end up getting connected with AARP? How does all of what you do link into that?
So, you know, like I said, I love business, and I was so blessed because in high school, I started interning. My senior year of high school, I started interning. And then when I went to college, I interned all 4 years. And in that process, my junior and senior year of college at Howard University, I was interning at AARP. I asked one of my public relations professors at the time, I'm like, hey, I need a paid internship. And so she was like, oh, you should apply to AARP. Had no idea what the organization was, never heard of it. Of course, when I tell my parents, like, oh my gosh, apply, that's awesome. They're for older adults. I'm like, okay. So little did I know that I would be working there at their national office 6 years later, right in DC. But I started off in multicultural marketing, which was awesome. And I was there for about 4 years. And so that department really focused on bringing brand awareness to multicultural communities nationally. So we would sponsor different events from Essence Festival to all of the Divine Nine conferences. We would have a booth, we would have talent.
Yeah.
We would have talent talk about AARP or specific topics around aging within, the Black community or the Asian community or the LGBTQ community. So we had different strategies for those different audiences, and we would market and we would show up where we knew the 50 plus adults would be at. And so those would be Essence or the Steve Harvey Hoodies Awards, anything Black that was a national presence that we knew that our audience would be at, we would show up. And so we've had talent from Holly Robertson Pete, Vivica Fox, Regina Bell, Donnie Simpson, all those folks I was able to work with and help talent wrangle and prep them as far as talking points around any of our programs that we would focus on around aging. So caregiving, financial resilience, of course, Social Security, all of those topics that are super, super important as we age, as we get older. We would amplify that message and make sure that we would recruit people of that age to be members of AARP so that they can receive the resources and the benefits.
Well, you know what's amazing? I really don't think a lot of people even recognize that AARP has all of those benefits or what, like, to me, like I received the card, okay, and it was just, oh, okay, I received discounts. I want to go like to the movies or to the hotel, like that kind of stuff. And you all do so much more. And I mean, that's so greatly important, to understand those links. Do you see like through all of these different communities, these multicultural communities, do you see one particular demographic that is less aware of it? Or, when you start talking about aging, they just shut their eyes to it?
Our community, for sure. AARP has really tried to break barriers as far as like brand awareness and getting people to want to be a part of the organization from a social impact perspective. So AARP has volunteers locally that shows up and does programming and outreach to support. We do a lot of community service work for older adults. I mean, it's amazing. From, caregiving facilities to nurses, we show up. It's very impactful. But our community, when we go to, when we show up at a Black event, people are not trying to sign up or get that card. And so we have really tried to use our talent ambassadors who people like Vanessa Williams or Vivica Fox who embrace their aging and they show up in that and they tell their stories about aging so that, they feel, I think Black women, we are more comfortable with that. We know that based off of the data, but Black men, when it comes to turning 50, it was very hard when we would show up at the Greek events and get them to come to the booth and hear about our programs. It was definitely one of those things where it's like, I'm not ready to turn 50, but it's a mindset. And so that's the biggest thing AARP pushes is changing the way we see age, disrupting aging, disrupting barriers. And so that it's beautiful. And I think it's important. I think we tap in the Black community when it comes to caregiving because we're never equipped. It's too late. We're taking care of mother and you don't know, what's what, you don't know where her information is or all of those different things, brain health, right? And so dementia. And so we don't have the setup where we have the support and we have the handoffs, right? Prepared. And so we go to AARP when it's time for those type of things. But imagine if we were prepared a little bit more earlier in the game.
Yeah, you are so right about that. I think we have just built such great levels of fear around it.
That's the word. Yeah.
And it drives us to respond the way that we do. But I'm glad that your presence is there. Like, I'm listening to you, I'm like, yeah, the confidence level and loving this business and building relationships and connections with people, it's just all over you. It resonates, and that is a ministry. I mean, it is a gifting as well. And so I'm glad that you're doing and you're pursuing what you love so much. I want to go back a little bit, that because I think this kind of ties into it all together. You know, my generation coming we were just at the beginnings of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't come up with internet in high school, and barely in college. And so, you know, now we're just filled with it. And for an artist, you know, out of my generation, some of us are just fearful of understanding this World Wide Web.
Yeah.
But we're trying to build a product. How important is social media in the world of building your brand? Can it be done without having a presence on social media?
Well, I have to take the term, I see it as there's definitely a hybrid approach to how we engage in social media. Specifically, I think it's super important. You have to have a social media presence when you have a brand or your artist, hands down. How we use it is super important. How we're strategic with it is super important. So, because I go back to that, because I'm not talking about it as far as the number of likes or the number of pictures you post, but strategic as far as the balance of it for your mental well-being. I think we use social media a lot, but we're not being strategic about how we use it to still get our message across, to still build our audience, but to also still feel like, if I step away, I'll be fine, right? And so that is definitely hard. And I think for artists, I think that's why it's important that you do hire a team to manage it on your behalf, so that you have that ability to step away and just be the artist, just be the creator. And so you do need to have it, but you also need to still stand still in your artistry and create, and not be so caught up in posting that you're not even getting the music done, or you're not even performing. And so that is the biggest piece, I would say. Is that.
Absolutely. No, I'm so with you. You know, I take a social media break every single year. Now, I'm not one who's really on social media. I think that since the podcast, my presence on social media has been more than it usually is. But I don't have any qualms come January to shut it down for an month, because I mean, that's my renewing time. It's the celebration of everybody. It's a new year for everybody. So it's like I need to come into focus with that. But here's the other part to the social media piece. We are inundated with a lot of different platforms. You got IG and TikTok and Facebook, to which the young people say Facebook is for older folks. IG's
right.
Where do you go? Like, how would you suggest to an artist of where to build their platform? Is it contingent on the genre of music? Is it contingent on the audience they're trying to serve? What are some of the things?
Absolutely. It's all those things, but it goes back to the data. And I say that to say, you go to your analytics, you will see where your audience is at and where they're checking for you. And so we know that different channels serve different communities. So we know Facebook is more of a closer, tight niche community. I know when I go to Facebook, I will have my church friends, I'll have my college friends, I'll have my high school friends. And so we know that there's a closer niche community where I may post certain things specifically for that, because I know I will get the support. Instagram, it may be different. And so you have to go back to your data. It will be different for everybody, right? Like you may show up more better or people are more receptive to you on Instagram than Facebook, but your data will tell you that.
That's because as an educator, we always used to, I remember there was a time that it was all about the data. And you know, it was called being just data driven. I was working for DC public schools at the time. And it's one thing that say, it doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. Like, you know, the statistics are there. Although, I mean, I could debate some stuff, but the statistics are there. And like, you know, and it's shocking and surprising. And I'm glad you said what you said in reference to where we go, because, that is definitely a conversational piece that I've had with people, I've had with myself, about where is the right space.
Yeah.
And
You don't need to do all of it. I tell you, I've seen people that are just killing it with just doing really great with TikTok. They may repurpose their content to Instagram, but their viewers are ready for them on TikTok. You
gotcha.
don't have to stretch yourself thin, but own your lane, own that platform. I think being at least consistent in two is going to always set you up for success.
I love it. Own your lane. That's
Yeah.
stay in that and own that. I love that. Tell me something. We're all now trying to move into new normals. I'm hoping people
Yeah.
are moving into new normal. I always hear people now talking about returning to normal, and
Right.
good God, I don't want to return to a lot of the stuff that I left 15 months ago. But in this pandemic, what have you learned?
Wow, I have learned so much.
Mhm.
So I'll say the top three things that comes to mind
Yeah.
is really that self-love, self-healing, and self-reflection.
Oh
That
my.
was a game changer for me. And God showed up in that space because he said, you're going to have to face yourself in this season. And if you don't, you'll still continue to do the same things and still be wondering, why am I still in the same circles, doing the same things, not getting
Yeah.
any different results? So he had to humble me, and he had to center me to focus on myself and that self-love journey. So I spent many days in COVID literally hiking, embracing nature, just sitting outside,
Mhm.
loving God's environment, praying daily. I mean, I always was doing my daily motivational word and prayer, but really journaling, like getting things out. I did therapy as well. And so
Mhm.
that was, I truly believe, a game changer, because now I'm set up in a position where I know myself and I can show up in my full self, and
Yeah.
I can communicate effectively how I feel about things and approach things in a more healthier way with empathy.
Yeah.
When you have empathy, and God made us realize what that really meant when we saw how people were dying. We
Mhm.
saw how people were isolated.
Yeah.
We saw how people, their job was taken away from them. They didn't have, and
Mhm.
we know how people live through their jobs. So
Yeah.
you can't show up to your work. Who are you?
Yeah.
So in saying that also too, we had a hard year. We've been having hard years. I mean, centuries,
Mhm.
ancestors. But when we talk about modern day hard day, seeing
Yes,
just the
God.
brutality,
Mhm.
the leadership of this nation, and how nasty
Mm. Oh, yes, God.
humans can be
Yeah.
towards each other. It was a cruel year.
Yeah.
So if we didn't learn anything, we should have learned about self-love and empathy for others and
Yeah.
loving others. One of the other pieces was cheerfully giving,
Mm.
giving without expectation. Because we were all in a scarcity moment, but the ones that showed up and was still able to give to others.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to also say that whole entire giving piece is, it's that part of being selfless,
Right.
not the financial aspect of it, but
That's good.
when you can pull from your core, your intent, your heart,
The intent piece, right.
still, that empathy piece.
Mhm.
You are so right. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you talk about that self-love, self-care, self-awareness. And I think the word selfish has gotten such a bad rap,
Mhm.
because we cannot possibly live in the fullness of our purpose, our gift, unless we have those times where we are selfish
Right.
to get it together.
Yes, ma'am.
Moms who do that, like we got 10 and 12 different jobs running at the same time and don't take the time to just reprieve, go away and get
Mm,
our minds back together so that we can come back to our families, our husbands, our
right.
children, and be whole and be ready for the next level. So that is
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so glad. I'm glad that was like a revelation for you in this time. In many ways, it was for me. I sure did a heck of a lot more journaling as well.
Yes.
I had a lot of journaling happening in my life, especially in the last 5 years. But this particular year drove me into spaces that.
Did you write a lot of songs? I'm curious if you did that.
No, but I will tell you what I did do. So the writing component was not a part of it as much as it was going back and sitting down and practicing. Just now having the time and practicing specifically the piano. So I had ordered up a whole slew of piano books and just to sit there and to be in touch with that. Now, that was something else that I haven't told many people about, the fact that God was dealing with me with playing the piano, because it was a gift that he gave me. That was my first initial gift.
Wow. And I didn't know that was the first.
Yeah, that was the first. That was the first. And I grew a disdain for it. It's such a deep story. I'll have to like share that story one day, to the point where people would say, well, what do you do as a musician? And I would never mention playing the piano. So it was, here it is,
wow.
is given, much is required. And I was not honoring what God had entrusted me with. And he was really starting to convict me during this respite time that we had. And so I'm in a different space and mind place now with it. And I'm grateful to have come around, but I'll have to share that at another time with everybody.
Yeah, you have to, because that sounds like a very good story. My ears are like, yeah,
it's deep. It is deep, you know. So, you know, I talk with my students a lot, whether it's COTG, my kids at the high school that I teach at, my children, and I always talk to them about the responsibility that I feel that we have, one, as human beings, two, as African Americans, and three, as artists, to speak to these things that we were just mentioning that was going on in this world. So much was happening. George Floyd, we had a whack president at one time. You know, it was right. There was a lot of things. And I believe that when you have the influence, that you ought to use your platform to speak to that. Well, your amen right there lets me feel that you're with me in that corner. How do you work that in what you do? How do you speak to it as a public relations strategist?
That's great. I will say one thing that I don't say a lot when I think about the education that I got was when I went to Howard, I actually minored in community development. So I always had a passion for community. And I realized that's where I really love to play in. And I know that it's funny because, of course, when I grew up, I was a part of a lot of community organizations. I was active in school as well, but my parents made sure that I was a part of activities that showed up in the community in a positive way to serve others. So COVID really changed the game, as you know.
Yeah.
Artists weren't gigging. I had clients that I had contracts with. I was supposed to get them, do a media tour for their new album or their project. I had things, lined up. I had things that I secured, but God said, we taking a pause. So I had to rethink, that was a way that of course I was, building business revenue, right? And so it was tough for me because I just didn't know what to do. But God came in and showed up because I ended up getting a promotion at AARP. So I ended up getting more money. Wow. And so I'm like, well, you know what? I'm thankful that you have answered my prayer in this new progression.
Yeah.
How can I be a servant? I feel like things are going well for me. Even in a pandemic, I'm moving the needle. I'm progressing. I'm saving money. I'm paying down debt. I've been disciplined. I downsized.
Yes.
Minimal life. I'm being obedient. Now I want to make sure that I am showing up for you, God. And he put this social impact program called the Mentorship Circle. That was a program that I decided to create for the pandemic for women who were struggling as far as getting the type of resources to build their business, struggling mentally, balancing being a mother, balancing being a college student, balancing being a single professional, just trying to move up and grow, get married, right? And have a family and still be a boss and have their own business. So I created the Mentorship Circle. It was a 3-month program. It was virtual. Women across the United States had the opportunity to apply for the program. And in the 3 months, we would have monthly sessions with other entrepreneurs that would speak about business development. So marketing, PR, pitching for new clients. We had speakers around mental wellness. We had a therapist speak to the women. So there were 20 women selected across the United States. We met once a month virtually from October to December. And we had a really great time, and we are still connected. And we're going to do it again, but this time it's going to be the Mentorship Circle Summit. So it'll be a 3-day experience.
Love it.
And the women that were a part will be able to be speakers this time. So that's we're carrying on the torch, but that's the social impact component of ANJPR. And we're going to always do something to serve the community. Always.
Sign me up.
Who I am.
Sign me up for that. I need to be.
Oh, we need to have you as a speaker.
That is dynamic. That is just dynamic. I love it. I love the giving back. I think we're called to do that. We are not islands. God did not create us to be islands. And so important to us, we now have the obligation, I use that word, very strongly, to give back into the community for others who are less fortunate in many different ways from us, or they might be right there, but they just need a platform as well. So when we talk about that, the giving back, who inspires you? Who are your muses?
Yeah, I love that question. I would say First Lady Michelle Obama is definitely a muse of mine because she exemplifies the power of a strong Black woman that is educated, and without her man, she is still sharp, and with her man, she makes him look better.
I need to say that one more time, that last part, because us women, we have a tendency to always feel like the man is going to make us. I want us to contribute greatly into making them. This is a teamwork effort. That was beautifully said. Beautiful.
I was talking to my friends, and we were just reflecting on her, and just the power. And if we need to be reminded the power of women and Black women, we can go back to Michelle. Yeah. If you watch her documentary, Becoming, it will definitely get you together.
Absolutely. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I love that. And I'll tell you, personally meeting her, I'm getting an echo feedback from personally meeting her and working with her on her Let Girls Learn campaign. That was a blessing to have been able to do that for a couple of years.
Wow.
She is just her presence alone is so real. It's so it's powerful, regal, it's confident, it's supportive, it's encouraging, it's strength, it's beauty. They're just everything.
In class.
Yes.
It's just class. I mean,
even in the sweatsuit, she's still fly.
She's still fly. And one of the things that we were talking about with her is the fact that she can communicate to different communities. That's what got President Obama in the White House.
Absolutely.
Her work and connecting to women of power,
all over
white,
the world.
Asian, Latino, LGBTQ, and the Black community.
Yes.
She was Black.
Yeah. Let's not forget that little tidbit.
Because some will. They Black and they'll still exclude the Black community. We know those people. They're out there. But she's a sister from Chicago.
That's right. That's right. Hood. The hood. Okay, that's really important too. Let's not forget that, the hood. What would you tell a young person who wants to go into this field of public relations? Like, what would be the one advice? Maybe it's something that you learned that was a hardship, and now you're like, listen, if you can pour this thing into people, and maybe it wasn't a hardship, but what could you share with them for their journey?
I think for me, it's definitely the experience. And then also to really tapping into your writing ability is going to be also a game changer, because the power of writing still exists within PR. But then the power of connection, that's why I said experience. So if you're looking to be in entertainment PR, you need to be interning for a entertainment PR agency, or looking at the Black media, if that's where you want to play in, working for BET, or finding those opportunities to work on the red carpet, finding opportunities to work for Black media, and then going into PR. So you understand what journalists are looking for. So the experience is so important. And so if you have the ability to study PR in school, within those 4 years, I would say at least 3 years, you need to be interning each semester in different spaces of PR. So you have that Rolodex of skill sets to walk out of in order to embrace it. But knowing that if you say you just decide to do a career pivot, it is great to still intern. And to learn the industry. So you can build the skill sets of PR, from writing press releases, designing EPKs, pitching, right? The follow-up, constant communication to media outlets. That is something you can learn in an internship program and be able to do it on your own.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm over here. There are just like, I'm always writing out the questions. And then there are many questions that we could never get to because time just escapes us. But this has been moments of it's just been so very full. And I appreciate all of the information that you have poured out. And I believe greatly that this information is going to help somebody.
I pray so.
I'm looking at the comments right now of people and just saying that, it was good and important information. I just think so many things that you mentioned that we don't give thought to. And as an artist, we still need to. And I'm still developing, y'all, until the Creator takes me from this earth. I still have long ways to go, and I want to do this thing right. So here's my last and final question for you before we depart. What is next on the agenda for you?
Next on the agenda, good question. I am still moving forward with ANJPR Consulting. So if in fact you are out here listening and you are looking for a public relations agency to take your brand to the next level, whether it be brand design, where you're a startup organization looking to build your brand and you need someone to create your marketing presence, whether you are just ready to make a pivot in your brand and you need some media attention, or you have a big product or album, or you're releasing something and you want to get some media around it so people can be aware of what you're bringing to this universe, we are here to serve. So we are located and we serve the DMV.
Tell me how we can reach you. Give me all the stuff.
Okay, yes, all of the good things. So you can contact me if you are interested in a consultation, which we provide you with the strategy. If in fact you were to work with us, you can email me at ashley@ANJPRconsultingllc.com. You can visit our website, www.anjprconsultingllc.com, or you can connect with us socially at ANJPR Consulting LLC on Instagram and on Facebook.
Okay, and so I was able, because I'm not typing that fast, to get one thing in, right? And that was for your email. I'm sorry, no, your website.
I see it.
PR, okay, consultingllc.com. And I'm certain that, people will review this podcast and they will get all the information there and write it down and be present. I like to wrap up with talking about the things that have always hit me, because in conversation, it's so full, and I learn as much as I'm hoping that I impact.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm looking for that too. I need encouragement, and I don't know it all, and so I could learn from the young, the old, and my mind is open to that. I love that there is the confidence, and you talked about just knowing the power of your own lane and staying within there and growing that and knowing what it is that you have been called to do. And when that happens, you walk with consistency
Mm-hmm.
and confidence. That word again, with confidence and consistency. Build the relationships, the connections. I
Yes.
can't see, everyone I've talked to has said this, and this is like the key. I learned it from a professor at Howard. People want to know who you are. They want to connect with you. They
Yes.
don't want to always, it ain't always about business. The business by default will follow itself through when you have genuine connections with people. Building teams, self-love, self-healing, self-reflection. Being selfish is a good word. Learn how to use all the things appropriately. It was reminders to me. And so for that, I am so grateful that we have this time together. I'm looking for another time for us to share on the podcast next season, perhaps. I'm realizing this season is coming to a close.
Wow.
Believable. God is good. God is good. Ashley, I love you, sis.
Love you too. Thank you so much for allowing me to be in your platform. This is awesome.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said yes. I'm glad you said yes. This was some great information to get out to the people. So looking forward to us connecting outside of this in the month of June.
Yes.
We'll have a get together to do. Muses, thank you so much for listening in to the Muses Behind the Music. I am your host again, Michelle Fallon, and looking forward to you joining us next week. Until then, blessed be. Peace.